Disclaimer. Tonight's story is based on a disturbing account that was shared anonymously online, then removed shortly after. Names, locations, and identifying details have been changed, but the part no one could explain stayed the same. A woman started receiving phone calls from her brother's old number 2 years after he died. And every night, the voice on the phone told her the same thing. Don't open the basement door. The first call came at 2:14 a.m. Sarah thought it was spam. Then she saw the name on the screen. Michael, her older brother. The brother who had been dead for 2 years. At first, she thought someone had cloned his number. Then she answered and heard his voice. Not a recording, not a voicemail, not some cheap prank. His voice. Breathing hard, whispering like he was hiding somewhere dark. Sarah, don't open the basement door. She almost dropped the phone because there was only one problem. Sarah didn't have a basement. Not in her apartment, not in her building, not anywhere near her. But 3 nights later, when she visited her father's old house to clean it out, she found a locked basement door she had never seen before. And from behind it, her dead brother started knocking. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy dark phone call horror, psychological stalker stories, disturbing family mysteries, and supernatural twists that get worse every minute, hit like, subscribe, and stay until the end. Because this story starts with a dead man's phone number, but it ends with someone still breathing behind a locked door. Now let's get into tonight's story. The first time my dead brother called me, I let it ring. I was half asleep, lying on my couch with the TV still on and an empty coffee cup on the floor beside me. It was 2:14 a.m. My phone buzzed against the table. Once, twice. Then the screen lit up. Michael. I didn't move. For a second, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing. Michael was my older brother. He had been dead for 2 years. Car accident, rainy road, no witnesses. That was what the police report said. His number had been disconnected 3 months after the funeral. I stared at the screen until the call stopped. Then I sat up, wide awake. A minute later, the phone buzzed again. Michael. This time, I answered. At first, there was only static, soft breathing. Then a voice whispered my name. Sarah. My chest tightened. It sounded like him, not almost like him. Him. The same low voice, the same tired edge, the same way he used to say my name when he was trying not to scare me. Who is this? I whispered. The breathing got faster. Don't open the basement door. Then the call ended. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to silence. I didn't have a basement. I lived on the 3rd floor of a small apartment building in Cleveland. No basement, no storage unit, no old cellar, nothing. So I told myself it was a prank. Some sick person had found Michael's old number, used a voice filter, and called me because grief makes people easy targets. But that explanation fell apart the next night. The call came again at 2:14. Same name, same voice. Sarah, he whispered. He knows you heard me. Who knows? The line crackled. Then, somewhere in the background, I heard a knock. 3 slow knocks. Michael's voice dropped lower. Don't let him make you look. Michael? A scraping sound came through the speaker, like metal dragging across concrete. Then he said, very quietly, he's still downstairs. The call ended. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, I called the phone company. They told me Michael's number was inactive. No recent activity, no outgoing calls, No incoming calls. Nothing. I called the police. They told me it was probably spoofing. I called my father. He didn't answer. That wasn't unusual. My father and I barely spoke anymore. After Michael died, something in him shut off. He sold most of the furniture, stopped going to church, stopped answering messages, and moved back into the old family house outside Ashland. The house Michael and I grew up in. A 2-story white farmhouse with peeling shutters, a gravel driveway, and an old storm cellar door on the side that had been sealed before I was born. At least, that was what I thought. On the third night, Michael called again, 2:14 a.m. This time, I answered immediately. "Where are you?" For several seconds, he didn't speak. Then I heard him crying. I'd never heard my brother cry before, not even at our mother's funeral. "Sarah," he said, "Dad lied." My blood went cold. "About what?" "The accident." Static swallowed the line. Then another voice came through. Not Michael. A man, older, calm, close to the phone. "She always asks too many questions." I stood up so fast the blanket fell off me. "Who is this?" The man chuckled. Behind him, Michael screamed. Then the call cut out. I drove to my father's house the next morning. He didn't answer the door. His truck was in the driveway, curtains closed, mail spilling from the box. I used the spare key under the loose porch brick. The smell hit me first. Not rot. Not exactly. More like damp wood, old cigarettes, and something metallic. "Dad?" No answer. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The living room was dusty. Family photos had been taken off the walls and stacked face down on the coffee table. Except one. Michael's senior picture still hung above the fireplace, but the glass had been cracked from the inside. I found my father in the kitchen. He was sitting at the table in the dark, wearing the same gray cardigan he always wore, staring at a black rotary phone in front of him. We had never owned a rotary phone. "Dad?" He didn't look at me. "You shouldn't have come." My throat tightened. What is happening? He closed his eyes. "It started calling here first." "What started calling?" He finally looked up. His face had aged 10 years. "Your brother." I stepped closer. "Michael is dead." Dad nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "Most of him." The house went quiet. Too quiet. Then, from somewhere beneath the floor, came 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I looked down. Dad gripped the edge of the table. "Do not answer that." My voice shook. "Where's that coming from?" He didn't speak. I walked into the hallway. The knocking came again. Not from the walls, not from outside, from below. At the end of the hallway, beside the pantry, was a door I didn't remember. Narrow, painted white, old brass knob, a chain lock across it. I stared at it. That wasn't there. Dad's voice came from behind me. It was always there. We just kept you away from it. The floor beneath my feet seemed to tilt. "What's behind it?" Before he could answer, the rotary phone in the kitchen rang. Dad flinched like he'd been slapped. 1 ring, 2, 3. Then silence. My cell phone buzzed in my pocket. "Michael." I looked at Dad. He shook his head, tears filling his eyes. "Don't." I answered. Michael was breathing hard. "Sarah, listen to me. He's not Dad." I turned slowly. My father stood at the end of the hall, except his expression had changed. The fear was gone. His mouth curved into a small smile. Michael whispered, "Run." My father lunged. I barely moved in time. His hand hit the wall beside my head hard enough to crack the paint. I ran toward the front door, but it slammed shut before I reached it. Every window in the house went dark. Dad laughed from the hallway, but it wasn't his laugh. It was the older man from the phone, calm, amused. She finally came home. I grabbed a fireplace poker and backed toward the kitchen. Dad stood between me and the front door. His eyes looked wrong, too wide, too bright. "Where is Michael?" I said. He tilted his head. "Parts of him are downstairs." The basement door began knocking again, harder this time. Knock, knock, knock. Then Michael screamed from behind it. "Sarah!" I ran to the door. Dad shouted, "Don't open it!" But that was exactly what made me open it. I ripped the chain lock loose and pulled the door open. Behind it was a staircase descending into darkness. Cold air rushed up, smelling like dirt and rust. At the bottom, a weak light flickered. I went down with the fireplace poker in one hand and my phone in the other. The basement was not the basement of the house I remembered. It was bigger, older, concrete walls, low ceiling, plastic sheets hanging from beams, a workbench covered in tools, and on the far wall were photographs. Hundreds of them. Me as a child, Michael as a teenager, Mom in the garden, Dad sleeping in a chair. Some photos were recent. Photos of me leaving work, walking to my car, buying groceries. Someone had been watching me for years. Then I saw the second door, heavy steel, bolted from the outside. A phone sat on the floor in front of it. Michael's old phone. The screen was cracked. The battery should have been dead. But it lit up as I approached. Call ended. Behind the steel door, something whispered, "Sarah." I stopped breathing. "Michael?" A hand slid under the gap beneath the door. Pale, thin, shaking. I dropped to my knees and grabbed it. The fingers curled around mine. Then the thing behind the door whispered in my brother's voice, "Don't let him see your face." I looked up. In the black reflection of the steel door, I saw my father standing at the bottom of the stairs. Only it wasn't my father anymore. His body stood there, but the face looked stretched wrong, like someone wearing old skin that didn't fit. He smiled. I told him you'd come. The hand under the door squeezed mine painfully. Michael's voice hissed. Not him, the one behind him. I looked past my father. At first, I saw nothing. Then the darkness behind him moved. A tall shape unfolded from the corner. Long arms, thin shoulders, a head bent sideways under the low ceiling. Its face was covered with pieces of other faces. My father's mouth, Michael's eyes, a woman's cheek, a child's teeth. I gagged. The thing leaned close to my father's ear, and my father spoke in its voice. Family opens easier. I swung the fireplace poker at him and ran, not upstairs, toward the workbench. There was a bolt cutter on the floor. I grabbed it and ran back to the steel door. Dad screamed behind me, not angry, terrified. "Sarah, don't!" That was when I understood. The thing didn't want me to open the basement door, but it also didn't want me to open the steel door, because whatever was behind it was the part of Michael it hadn't been able to use. I cut the first bolt, then the second. The thing behind my father shrieked. Every light bulb in the basement burst. In total darkness, Michael's hand grabbed my wrist and pulled. The steel door opened just enough. Inside was a crawl space lined with old insulation and black mold. And there, curled against the back wall, was my brother. Not alive like he used to be. Not dead like he should have been. Thin, gray, barely human. But his eyes were Michael's. He looked at me and whispered, "You have to stop answering." Then he pushed something into my hand, A tooth. My tooth. One I had lost as a child. I remembered then. When we were kids, Dad used to joke that lost teeth were how the house remembered us. Michael had kept mine in a little wooden box. The creature screamed again. Michael looked past me. It calls using what it owns. I looked at the tooth in my hand, then at Michael's phone glowing on the floor. Every call, every voice, every warning. It had come through something connected to us. I grabbed the phone and smashed it with the fireplace poker. The basement shook. My father collapsed. The tall thing screamed through every mouth on its face. I crushed the phone again and again. The screen went black. The creature folded inward like smoke being sucked through a crack. Then the basement was silent. When the police arrived, they found my father unconscious in the kitchen. They found no tall creature, no hidden photographs, no crawl space, no steel door, just an old sealed storm cellar full of dust. They found Michael's phone in my pocket, broken in half. But according to records, that phone had been buried with him. My father died in a hospital 3 days later. Before he passed, he woke up once. He looked at me and said, "It doesn't need a phone anymore." Then he flatlined. I moved across the country after the funeral. New number, new apartment. No mirrors facing my bed, no landline. For 8 months, nothing happened. Then last night, at 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown caller. I didn't answer. It stopped after 3 rings. Then a voicemail appeared. No number, no timestamp. I played it once. There was only breathing at first. Then Michael's voice whispered, "Sarah." A pause. Then something else spoke behind him, in my father's voice. "Open the door."